The rain was coming down in sheets as I drove home from the office. Chicago in November, a masterpiece of gray skies and perpetual dampness. I was looking forward to seeing Guinevere, maybe ordering in some Thai food and just relaxing after a particularly brutal week at the clinic. I'm Torin, by the way, 44 years old, a cardiologist. Not that any of that matters now, I suppose. It all feels tainted. Guinevere and I had been married for 15 years. We met in medical school. She was studying to be a pediatrician. We were that sickeningly sweet couple everyone envied. Shared values, similar ambitions, genuinely in love, or so I thought. I pulled into the driveway, the headlights cutting through the gloom. The house was dark. Guinevere usually had a light on, even if she was running late. I checked my phone. No messages. Maybe she was at the hospital. Pediatricians often worked crazy hours. I unlocked the front door and stepped inside. Guinevere. I called out, my voice echoing in the sudden silence. I flipped on the living room light. Everything seemed normal, too normal. Her purse was on the kitchen counter, keys dangling from the strap. That was odd. Guinevere never left her keys out. I went upstairs, calling her name again. Still no answer. Then I saw it. The bedroom door was slightly ajar. A sliver of light spilled out into the hallway. My heart started to pound. I pushed the door open. The scene that unfolded before me is forever etched in my brain. Guinevere, my wife, the woman I loved more than anything in the world, was in our bed with another man. I won't describe the details. They're too graphic, too painful. Let's just say they weren't watching television. The man was Jett, a family friend. He was a divorce attorney, and we'd known him for years, ever since he helped Guinevere's sister through a messy separation. He'd been over for dinner countless times. We'd even gone on vacation together once. The utter betrayal was like a physical blow, knocking the wind out of me. I stood there, frozen, unable to speak, unable to move. Guinevere saw me first. Her eyes widened in horror. Jett, startled, scrambled to cover himself. Torin, Guinevere stammered, her voice barely a whisper. It's not what it looks like, really, because it looks exactly like my wife is sleeping with my friend in our bed, I said, my voice dangerously low. I couldn't believe the words were coming out of my mouth. This couldn't be happening. This had to be a nightmare. Jett, ever the smooth talker, tried to salvage the situation. Torin, man, I can explain. I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want to hear anything. I turned and walked out of the room, slamming the door behind me. I went downstairs, grabbed my keys and wallet, and left the house. I didn't know where I was going. I just needed to get away. I ended up at a dive bar on the north side, a place I hadn't been to in years. I ordered a double whiskey and downed it in one gulp. The bartender, a grizzled old guy named Earl, just nodded and refilled my glass. I spent the next few hours in a drunken haze, trying to make sense of what had happened. How could Guinevere do this to me, to us? What had I done wrong? I replayed every moment of our marriage in my head, searching for clues, for signs I had missed. But I came up empty. We were happy, or so I thought. The next morning I woke up in a cheap motel room with a pounding headache and a profound sense of despair. The events of the previous night flooded back, each memory a fresh stab wound. I checked my phone. Several missed calls and texts from Guinevere. I deleted them without reading them. I wasn't ready to talk to her. Maybe I would never be ready. I called in sick to work and spent the day wandering around the city, lost in my thoughts. I walked along the lakefront, watching the waves crash against the shore. The cold wind whipped at my face, mirroring the icy feeling in my heart. By evening, I knew I couldn't avoid it any longer. I had to confront Guinevere. I drove back to the house, my hands trembling on the steering wheel. The house was still dark. I unlocked the door and stepped inside. Guinevere, I called out. She was waiting for me in the living room, her face pale and drawn. She looked like she hadn't slept. Torin, please, let me explain, she said, her voice pleading. Explain what, Guinevere? Explain how you could betray me like this. Explain how you could sleep with another man in our bed, I asked, my voice rising. It just happened, she said, her eyes filling with tears. It was a mistake. I don't know what came over me. A mistake? You call sleeping with Jett a mistake? I demanded, incredulous. This wasn't some drunken one-night stand, Guinevere. This was a calculated act of betrayal. Started to cry harder. I know. I'm so sorry, Torin. I never meant to hurt you. I love you, love me. If you loved me, you wouldn't have done this, I said, my voice cracking. I don't even know who you are anymore. Please, Torin, give me another chance, she begged. We can work through this. We can go to therapy. We can fix this. I looked at her, really looked at her, and I realized that I didn't love her anymore. The woman I loved was gone, replaced by someone I didn't recognize. "It's too late, Guinevere," I said, my voice flat. "I want a divorce," she gasped, her eyes wide with shock. "No, Torin, please don't do this. We can't throw away 15 years. We already did, Guinevere," I said, turning to leave. "You threw it away when you slept with Jett." I walked out of the house, leaving Guinevere sobbing in the living room. I didn't look back. I drove to a hotel downtown and checked in. The next morning, I called a divorce attorney. It wasn't Jett. The divorce was messy, as they always are. Guinevere tried to fight it, tried to convince me to change my mind. But I was adamant. I couldn't forgive her. I couldn't forget what she had done. As the divorce proceedings dragged on, I learned more about the affair. It had been going on for months. Months. All those late nights at the hospital, all those business trips, they were all lies. Guinevere had been systematically betraying me for months, and I had been too blind to see it. I also learned that Jett wasn't just a family friend. He was a serial cheater, a predator who preyed on vulnerable women. He had a reputation for sleeping with his clients' wives, and Guinevere had fallen for his charms. I felt sick to my stomach. The divorce was finalized a few months later. I got the house, and Guinevere got a hefty settlement. I didn't care about the money. I just wanted to be free of her. After the divorce, I threw myself into my work. I spent long hours at the clinic, seeing patients, performing surgeries. It was a way to distract myself from the pain, to fill the void in my life. I also started seeing a therapist. I needed to talk to someone about what had happened, to process my emotions, to learn how to trust again. My therapist, a kind woman named Mallory, helped me to understand that Guinevere's actions were not a reflection of me. They were a reflection of her own insecurities and flaws. One day, about a year after the divorce, I got a call from Guinevere. I almost didn't answer it, but curiosity got the better of me. "Torin, I need your help," she said, her voice trembling. "What do you want, Guinevere?" I asked, my voice cold. "I'm sick, Torin," she said, her voice breaking. "Really sick. The doctors say I have cancer." My heart sank. Despite everything, I didn't want her to be sick. "What kind of cancer?" I asked. "Ovarian cancer," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "It's advanced. They don't think I have much time." I didn't know what to say. I was shocked, stunned. "I'm sorry, Guinevere," I said lamely. "I know I don't deserve your sympathy," she said, "but I don't have anyone else to turn to. Jett left me as soon as he found out I was sick. My family, they can't handle it. You're the only one who can understand." I hesitated. Part of me wanted to hang up the phone and never speak to her again. But another part of me, a part of me that still cared about her, couldn't abandon her in her time of need. "What do you want me to do, Guinevere?" I asked. "I want you to come with me to my appointments," she said. "I want you to help me make decisions about my treatment. I want you to be there for me, Torin. Even though I don't deserve it, I thought about it for a long time. It wouldn't be easy. It would be painful, emotionally draining. But I knew I couldn't say no. I owed it to her, and I owed it to myself, to be there for her in her final days. "Okay, Guinevere," I said. "I'll be there." And I was. I went with her to her appointments, held her hand during her chemotherapy treatments, and listened to her fears and regrets. It was hard, incredibly hard, but it was also healing. I learned to forgive her, not for her sake, but for my own. I realized that holding onto anger and resentment was only hurting me. Guinevere died a few months later. I was with her when she took her last breath. It was peaceful, quiet. She looked like she was finally at rest. I don't know if I'll ever fully understand why Guinevere cheated on me. Maybe it was a midlife crisis. Maybe it was a desire for excitement. Maybe it was just plain selfishness. But I do know that her actions don't define me. They don't diminish my worth as a person. I am still Torin, the cardiologist, the loving husband, the betrayed spouse, the forgiver. And I will continue to live my life with integrity and compassion, even in the face of heartbreak. Looking back, I see that Guinevere's betrayal, as devastating as it was, ultimately made me a stronger person. It taught me the importance of forgiveness, the resilience of the human spirit, and the enduring power of love. And for that, I am grateful, even to her.